Let's look at how we multiply two fractions together. The first step is going to be just to multiply straight across. So let's say we have a over b times c over d. Then what we're going to do is just multiply straight across the top, or the numerators. This will be a times c. And we'll multiply straight across the bottom, or the denominators. So that's b times d. And then the second step is going to be reduce that to lowest terms. In this example, we're supposed to multiply these two fractions and then simplify. So we have 24 fifths times 7/16. So our first step is going to be to multiply this straight across, the numerator and the denominator. I'm going to write that as 24 times 7 divided by 5 times 16. Now I didn't multiply these out because what I want to do is actually simplify this now. And the first step in simplifying is to factor. So if I were to multiply this out, I would just have to refactor it again immediately. And so I'm just going to leave it like this. Now what I'll do is I'll keep factoring. So 24 is going to be 3 times 8. So I have 3 times 8 times 7 in the numerator. And then 16 I can factor as 2 times 8. So we'll have 5 times 2 times 8 in the denominator. Now I can see that I have an 8 in the numerator and the denominator, and so I'm going to cancel that out. Now let's look and see what we have left. On the top, the numerator, we have 3 times 7. And on the bottom, the denominator, we have 5 times 2. These are all prime numbers, and there aren't any common numbers between the top and the bottom. And so this is simplified. So what we're going to do now is finally just multiply out what we have on the top. So we have the 3 and we have the 7. So let's multiply those two together to get 21. And on the bottom, we have the 5 and the 2. And so let's multiply those two together and we'll get 10. And that's our final answer. Let's check our understanding. Remember to pause the video and try this one first on your own, and then come back and see how you did. So here we have 10 over 21 times 6 over 35. So my first step is going to be to multiply. And remember, we multiply straight across the top and straight across the bottom. So I have 10 times 6 divided by 21 times 35. Okay, so now let's start simplifying. So what we need to do is continue to factor. Remember that I didn't multiply out the 10 times the 6 or the 21 times the 35, because then I would have just immediately had to refactor. So 10 is 2 times 5, and 6 is 2 times 3. Then in the denominator, we have 21, which is 3 times 7, and 35, which is 5 times 7. So now let's look for what cancels. We have a 5 in the numerator and the denominator, so those two are going to cancel. And I also see a 3 in the numerator and the denominator, so those cancel as well. Now I'm going to check to see what's left. I have 2 2's on the top, and I have 2 7's on the bottom. Those are prime numbers, so nothing else is going to cancel, and so we're good to go. The last thing that we need to do is multiply out. So we'll take these two and multiply them together. That'll give us 4. Then in the denominator, we're going to take the 2 7's and multiply those together to get 49. Here's a real-life example of multiplying fractions together. Susan plans to pave a rectangular pathway that's 36 yards long and 8/9 of a yard wide. What's the area of the planned path? Okay, so here's the idea, is that we have this pathway that's rectangular. The length is 36 yards, and the width is 8/9 of a yard. The area of a rectangle is going to be the length times the width. So here, the area is going to be our length, which is 36 yards, and our multiplied by our width, which is 8/9 of a yard. Now looking at that, you might say, uh-oh, we only have one fraction and the other one is just a whole number. So what are we going to do? Well, if you recall, what you need to do is think of 36 as a fraction. In fact, 36 can be written as 36 divided by 1. Any whole number can be written as that whole number divided by 1, and then you have a fraction that you can use in your computations. So now we know we multiply straight across. That's 36 times 8 over 1 times 9, which is 9. Now what I'm going to do is look at the top and bottom. I see that 9 divides 36, and it also divides the bottom, 9. And so I'm going to divide both of those. So 36 divided by 9 is going to be 4. And 9 divided by 9 is going to be 1. So that's just a quicker way for me to reduce. So we have 4 times 8 on the top, which is going to be 32. Divided by 1, we can't reduce that anymore, and so our answer is going to be 32 square yards, which we can write as yards squared, like that.